Welcome to yet another fabulous Sunday night news and nonsense. No Total OS today, but I have Mr. Gizmo himself, Matthew Moore, co-hosting the show. How you doing, Matthew?
Pretty good.
Say, tell me, how was your Valentine's Day?
Oh, it was a barrel of laughs, really. Well, me and my wife left at about 4 p.m. to go to have dinner, and we didn't actually eat dinner until somewhere around 9:30. Crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now, what about the part where, you guys are getting upset and you go home and have an argument and all this other stuff?
Oh, yeah. After driving around for 3 hours trying to find a place to eat that didn't have a 2-hour wait, we get frustrated, come home, start bickering at each other. And then, hey, wait a minute. There's a restaurant up the street that has call-ahead seating. And then we end up going there at around 9:30 when we wanted to eat at 4. So
it is what it is. But
yeah.
but how did the night end up for you?
Oh, it ended up just fine.
Okay, just remember one thing though. Kinky is when you tickle your wife with a feather, but weird is when you use the whole chicken.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't ask me how my Valentine's Day went.
Well, how did it go?
I went to a funeral.
Oh, well, since it was Valentine's Day, I hope you brought a date with you.
Yeah, well, it's a friend of the family and that sort of thing, and she's in a better place, yada, 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 yada. And so why don't we just start things off with everybody's favorite song, NSA, NSA, everybody loves the NSA. Yeah, I know, I shouldn't quit my day job, right? Exactly. It appears that 3 former NSA workers accused of aiding Snowden. One of the 3, a civilian who has since resigned, admitted allowing Edward Snowden to use his computer ID to gain access to classified data, an NSA memo to Congress says. As well as there were 2 other people, one an active duty member of the military and a civilian contractor. The memo does not describe their conduct, but says they were barred from the NSA and its systems in August. You know, Matthew, I think this NSA stuff is going to keep going on and on and on and on. And then, of course, the president was going on to try and ease American tension. But to be honest with you, I don't see this going away. How do you see it?
Well, I don't see it going away either, but I also see a situation where we'll probably hear about it so much that people will just stop caring, and that could be a problem too.
Yeah. No, I doubt that people are going to stop caring about that, especially where privacy is concerned and that sort of thing. So tell me what you got.
Well, there's some interesting stuff happening with Canonical and the Ubuntu team these days. It seems that, Debian has recently made a decision to move to the System D for their distro, and Ubuntu has followed. Apparently, it seems to be the better choice. Now, the way I understand it is that System D allows for multiple daemons to be able to be started up at once, and it'll also have less resources for the config files and so forth. So this should improve boot times quite a bit. But as I understand it, it's not POSIX compliant. So that could be some issues in some areas, I guess. But all for the better, I guess.
Yeah, and the thing is, Arch Linux has been running System D for about a year, I think now. And of course, there were a few little bumps in the road in the transition to it, but it seems to be working fine. I'm running Manjaro, and it seems to be working quite well. So this is a better innovation. So hopefully they'll be able to make this transition without pissing too many penguins off. And in related news in Ubuntu land, Ubuntu Community Council explains why Linux Mint and all other distros must sign a license agreement. Now, I don't know if you heard this, Matthew, but the community has been in an uproar when Ubuntu stated that they're going to start requiring licensing for derivatives like Mint and others out there.
I didn't hear about that. That seems like a corporate move, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, this is something Toss and I have been tossing around. I wasn't sure if you were, that was funny, that Toss and I were tossing around. Yeah, we were talking about this before. But basically, and this is from a Canonical quote, we believe there's no ill will against Linux Mint from either the Ubuntu community or Canonical, and that Canonical does not intend to prevent them from continuing their work And this license is to help ensure that. What Linux Mint does is appreciated, and we want to see them succeed. And they went on to say, at this time, we are in agreement that one of the keys to Ubuntu's success is in providing a well-designed, reliable, and enjoyable experience to all of our users, whether they are using Ubuntu on a desktop, a phone, or in the cloud. To that end, it is critical that when we see people see, quote, Ubuntu, it adequately represents the software that we all build and stand behind.
Yeah, well, these licensing agreements don't seem to be affecting the Chinese opinion of Ubuntu. Seems that since October, they've downloaded more than 1.5 million copies of Ubuntu Kylin, which is their Chinese version geared to China. And it's become so popular, it's even being used by the Chinese government and military at this point. So it's pretty much the Ubuntu official operating system of China at this point. They're trying to break away from that stronghold of Microsoft, I guess.
Absolutely. And in related news, and I had an opportunity to download this and look at this when I was new to Linux. It appears that China's shuts down the Windows rival called Red Flag Linux. And this operating system, it's, quote, the operating system for the people, but apparently they're closing their doors. China's hometown answer to Windows has gone the way of the dodo after failing to make an impact on the domestic market for operating systems. Red Flag Linux has terminated all staff contracts and gone into liquidation, according to a notice pinned to the door of its deserted headquarters in Beijing. But this is good news for Ubuntu, and maybe Ubuntu may have spurred this happening because, Ubuntu is a well-known, well-established operating system. It's being adopted by a lot of newcomers that are coming into the Linux world. It does have a nice user interface that the newcomer can easily digest, albeit that some people would say that they don't really care for the Unity interface and then we'll switch over to a different Linux distribution. But this is a good thing. So it's sad to see some Linux distributions going away, but Ubuntu is picking up the slack where Red Flag Linux couldn't.
Yeah, well, the thing about Windows dependencies is there's a lot of gamers in that world too, especially in Asian countries like China. And that's also good news because Steam client just went through a dramatic update too. And we all know that Ubuntu is their preferred platform. Seems that recently the updates have fixed issues with slow capture time and streaming. Some automatic frame rate drops have been lessened as a result of these updates. And they've also disabled some QoS traffic to help improve some reliability with some routers that were having problems. So the gamers won't be totally out of the blue on this one either.
Absolutely, and that's the thing that the Steam client is officially Ubuntu supported, but now we have Steam OS, which is running on top of Debian, and it now has full driver support for NVIDIA and for ATI. You would install it, and then you'd have to update it to get those latest drivers supported and that sort of thing. But full steam ahead. They're doing a lot for the Linux community, and we appreciate it. And in related gaming news, there is a game engine called Godot, and some of you may or may not be familiar with the name, but this is a gaming engine that has gone open source, and it's responsible for bringing a lot of games to Android. I see in the screenshots here, a lot of these games, they don't give any of the name titles and that sort of thing. But the thing is, this allows you to create games for several different platforms, such as Windows, Linux, Mac, Android, iOS, and HTML5. It has been fully open sourced under an MIT license. Just Google a Godot game engine, that is Godot. You can download a copy of the source and you can start making games for Linux right away. Cool stuff indeed. This is going to bring more games to the Linux platform. It's going to bring in a lot more developers, and they're saying that it is a possible contender for the name of the game engine that's out there now that's popular is on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it. I think it was Cube Engine, or I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of adoption happening all across that field with Ubuntu and gaming and stuff. But they're also adopting some Google technologies now too. This speech engine from Google that the speech recognition engine API that's been used in Android for the past 2 years. It's basically been adopted by Ubuntu, and it's under the name Google to Ubuntu now. It's pretty much been unupdated for a long time, but they recently added new languages like English, French, German, Spanish, and Italian, and additional internal commands, as well as a few other things to bring more speech recognition technology to the Ubuntu platform. And this will help with their mobile initiative that Canonical is trying to push as well, I imagine.
And it's about fricking time, too, because I can remember 2 years ago, here, I've got my Android phone, I can press the microphone, speak into it, and it will type what I've said, and, and then do a search online and that sort of thing. And now they've got this available. I saw the article earlier today, and I was thinking to myself, geez, it's about time that they've got this now. And so I'm going to be searching the AUR at some point to see if they've got this ported over to Arch-based distributions, because this is something that I want. This would be a great thing. You press the microphone, you can just start talking and it'll start typing. And I don't know if you've tried this, Matthew, but the thing is, the speech recognition is pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't done anything with it myself. I don't really use those text-to-speech engines, but it is interesting technology.
Yeah, and anybody that's got an Android phone already knows this. You just press the microphone, and it doesn't matter where you are. You press the microphone, for the Google search, and it'll type out what you're saying. When you're sending text messages, when I was at work, I used to just press the button, and I would just speak into my device, and it would type out everything that I said, and then I just press the send button, so it worked with instant messaging and that sort of thing. So, yeah, if they can get this API working great on Linux, that is a wonderful thing, something we really look forward to. And this one should hit home for you, because I know you just left. Cox Cable. In the news, Comcast versus the cord cutters. Now, the typical American household pays about $90 a month for cable television service, according to the NPD Group, the market research firm. But according to research firm of you and pretty much everyone else when you click your TV and browse the guide, you find that it hardly seems to be worth the $90 a month, especially when you get all these channels. It's got a bunch of crap you don't want to watch. Well, the thing is, a lot of people are deciding, okay, well, I'm just going to get rid of cable TV and I'm just going to pay for an internet connection so that I can watch everything that I want to streaming off the internet. Well, it appears that Comcast is striking a deal to acquire Time Warner Cable, which I used to use up north, and I thought they were great. Comcast is... hate it. Well, so apparently what they're attempting to do with this here is to force people into contract packages and, force people. So if you want internet, you're going to have to get, the cable TV packages as well. Otherwise, we're going to gouge you where the internet cost is and that sort of thing. I think it's a ridiculous move that they're making here, and the thing is, there are other options out there. I've even considered AT&T service because I really don't like the service that I'm getting from here. But is this the shape for things to come? The cable companies are going to be in control of things as if they're not gouging us enough already?
I don't know. I think the main issue with that is because so many people are getting their content from the internet, the cable companies are losing a lot of money because people don't want cable. But then you have providers like the one that I have. I have Fios, and basically it's all the same signal. It's the same fiber optic line. It's not a cable company per se. So the same signal provides the TV and internet through them. So I think perhaps more companies that use that type of technology might start showing up if the cable companies start doing their users this way.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Yeah. And yeah, I can remember my last apartment. I didn't even have cable TV. I just went for just the internet because I get all of my news and everything there. Why have it if you're not even going to use it in the first place? So yeah. So I think if anything, this move might actually push people away and get them to using alternative services.
Yeah, I was certainly happy when I left Cox Cable for Fios. It's a little more expensive, but the benefits it's just 10 times better.
Yeah, I could hear you jumping up and down with joy down here in Florida while you're way up there in Virginia.
Oh yeah, there's nothing slow about fiber optics. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. What you got?
Well, speaking about companies not playing nice with their users,
Here it comes, kids.
it seems that Android's dirty little secret is out now. Many of us have probably already suspected. A lot of us have probably already been expecting this for a while because we kind of already know. But it seems that Google apparently has a different definition of open source than the rest of us. They open their hardware up to manufacturers and they let them do what they want with the software, but they also kind of have strings attached. They don't let these manufacturers like Samsung or LG or HTC use their Google API without including the entire Google app suite. Basically, if you want Gmail or Google Search, they force you to install all of the Google applications. If a manufacturer like Samsung does this, if they want to have their alternatives, if they want to have their own email client, if they want to have their own calendars and they want to have all that stuff, but they still want to have the Play Store to have the access to that, well, they have to have all the Google applications because that's what Google says. So essentially you end up with 2 of everything on those devices. And it's just, I don't get it. I mean, the idea is to be open and let users enjoy these devices. But, if Google's strong arming them into doing this, I really don't see how that's an open platform.
Well, let me shed a little bit of light on this because there's something the article isn't informing you here in that we wouldn't have mods like CyanogenMod, and there's plenty other mods that you can get for your Android devices. Okay. That would, otherwise we wouldn't have customized ROM sets and that sort of thing. Okay. But to get the most use out of them, now Android itself as an operating system is open source. It's just that the Google apps are not. So to get the most out of like the CyanogenMod, and you want the Play Store for installing your applications and that sort of thing, unfortunately, you're going to have to install the Google apps. But the kicker is when you download this GApps directory, basically it's a tarball. You can remove the individual Google applications that you don't want at the expense of losing some functionality on your device. So the Google the Android operating system in of itself is open sourced, but the Google applications are not. And so that's kind of a catch-22. But yeah, they are kind of shoving things down people's throats. Okay, well, I've got an interesting share for you guys. Here are 10 things that you can do with Linux, okay? Even if your main PC runs Windows. Number 10, you can use Linux to troubleshoot other computers. You don't even need to install it on a box. You can just make a live CD, you can troubleshoot it, and that sort of thing. Number 9, you can make a Chromebook more useful. You'd be surprised at how much you can get done in Chrome OS, but there are a lot of great Chrome apps out there for editing audio, video, images, coding, and more. But sometimes you just need a little bit more powerful desktop you're familiar with, and luckily you can install Linux alongside Chrome OS. We already had a discussion with this. There's Crouton available now where you can run a different desktop on top of it. Number 8, you can host a website or a web app from a Linux machine. Number 7, you can work with hard drives and partitions. Number 6, you can automate everything in your home. Number 5, you can run a home server for backing up, streaming, and torrenting. Number 4, you can create a dedicated media center or a video gaming machine, hence the Steam box. And then, of course, we have XBMC, which will let you do your television streaming at home. You can brush up on your hacking and security with Linux. You can revive an old or slow PC. And the number 1 reason, learn more about how computers work. Isn't Linux a wonderful thing?
Yeah, it's fantastic. But I think the number one reason to use Linux is because it's Linux.
Absolutely. Well, I think the penguin looks prettier than the Windows logo.
Yeah, and so does the GNU and the KDE Dragon and and the pigeon, a bird, and whatever. I can go on all day.
Yeah, well, Tuck's holding a fly swatter against the MSN bug. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah. When I saw that picture, I was like, had to love that one.
Well, when you think about powerful computers, a butterfly really isn't the first thing that pops into my head, I gotta tell you.
But I think you're going to tell us what a powerful computer is, and this is the perfect chipset for running to run on top of Tux. Tell us about it.
Well, when I read this news, I got pretty excited. It seems that Intel is preparing a 15-core Xeon CPU, and it's capable of being installed on a motherboard that can handle up to 8 processors with 240 threads. So that's 16 threads per core. So this is just insane. This chip
exactly.
has,
and the moment you turn the power on the computer, all of the all of the houses in your neighborhood will lose their electricity.
Yeah, well, this thing has 4.31 billion transistors on it, running at 3.8 gigahertz, so 155 watts. I don't know. You get a wire across, you might inadvertently rip a hole in the space-time continuum with this thing.
Yeah, but Matthew, I have to ask you, do they even have a price tag on that? Because I am so cheap, they need to put my picture on a $5 food stamp.
Yeah, well, if you add 4 more zeros to that, you could afford one. But there is a cheaper alternative, though. AMD back in January came out with a 16-core CPU. It's not as powerful as this one, single thread per core at 2.8 gigahertz, but it's only $1,500. So, AMD.
Hey, that reminds me of that song that you shared with me a while back. AMD, harder, faster, better. Oh, never mind. And now it's time for the nonsense report. Did you know that plastic shopping bags can make a fine diesel fuel? Plastic shopping bags, an abundant source of litter on land and at sea, can be converted into diesel, natural gas, and other useful petroleum products, researchers report. The convention produces significantly more energy than it requires and results in transportation fuels, diesel, for example, that can be blended with existing ultra-low sulfur diesels and biodiesels. Other products such as natural gas, gasoline, waxes, lubricating oils, and yada, yada, yada. So I think that's a great idea because I'll tell you what, Matthew, I think my attic is filled with those plastic shopping bags, because, those things just collect up and collect up. I think the spare bedroom in the house you can't even walk in there. There's so many of them.
Yeah, well, plastic is made from petroleum, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What you got?
Well, there's some interesting stuff. You know how we're all afraid of robots and Skynet taking over and all this stuff? Well, it seems that there are some interesting technologies being put into artificial limbs. It seems that there is an artificial hand that was developed that can actually feel things for you and beam these sensations into your brain so you can actually feel things that you're touching with this robotic hand. I guess, as this evolves, you're going to end up putting your brain on top of a robot body before it's over with.
Interesting article, too. I was reading this earlier, and it seems like that's a pretty neat thing. Here's another one. A robotic construction crew needs no foreman. On the plains of Namibia, millions of tiny termites are building a mound of soil, an 8-foot-tall lung for their underground nest. During a year of construction, many termites will live and die. Wind and rain will erode the structure, and yet the colony's life-sustaining project will continue. Inspired by termites, resilience, and collective intelligence, a team of computer scientists and engineers at the Harvard School of Engineering and Applied Sciences and the WYSS Institute for Biologically Inspired Engineering at Harvard University has created an autonomous robot construction crew. The system needs no supervisor, no eye in the sky, and no communication, just simple robots, any number of robots that can cooperate by modifying their environment. Talk about taking jobs away from us humans. Now it's all going to be going into robotics one day. Hey?
Yeah, I was about to say, you better start getting your resumes ready. Yeah, I guess if you had to be any person, any position to really make money these days, you should get a job as the engineer that actually works on the robots. That way your job will be safe.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, some more news about these evolving technologies. We use LED lights in a lot of things, even the computer screen you're staring at right now. It seems like the researchers at the Institute of Physics and Chemistry of Materials in Strasbourg, France, has developed a single molecule LED. To achieve this, they used a single polyethylene wire, and the substance is a good electrical conductor made of hydrogen, carbon, and sulfur. They basically run a current through this near some gold particles, and this filament begins to glow. So it's basically a tiny monofilament wire that you can barely see with the naked eye, that when electric current goes through it, it lights up bright as the sun almost. Well, not really. That's an exaggeration, but it sure is bright for its size. This could be replacing modern-day LEDs, so they can be made smaller. More of them can be put in a tight space. And, you know, I guess we'll have even higher resolution screens that draw even less power now. This is pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, we all know that LEDs use less and less power, and they provide really some pretty bright light. I mean, a lot of, you know, I've even gone tech shopping around, and it's funny to see that a lot of these, you know, flash bulbs that you can buy for cameras now are all LED powered, you know, and they'll have like, you know, 50 little LED bulbs in a little square thing that, you know, provides you the lighting and everything, and it's, you know, every bit as bright as some of these fluorescent bulbs that you have out there now. So, I mean, it's really interesting to see how that technology is developing. And speaking of technology, Matthew, I believe you have a little bit of a rant for the latest Windows 8.1. You got to tell us about this.
Well, where do I start? I'm one of the few people that actually started to like the whole Windows 8 idea. Yeah, I know. When I first saw it, it was very weird, to say the least. I didn't like it at first because of how unusual it was. But after I learned how it worked, I actually started to get used to it. And once I got used to it, I found it to be actually kind of a nice system. But as soon as I start to like it, I guess they heard that I liked it because they decided to change it again. You know, we can't have happy penguins using Windows, I guess. And basically, this new update that is coming pretty soon to the 8.1 platform is so bad that even the Microsoft VIPs that have been a long advocate of Windows 8.1, even they've turned their backs on it, saying that it is the biggest mess of an operating system they've ever seen. And I have to agree.
That kind of reminds me of that Sony video you shared. And because this is a family-friendly show, I can't describe it, but just do a search for Sony and Onion on YouTube. That is, if you are at least 18 years of age or older, and you will find the video, and it's a good laugh. So what did you end up doing?
Well, I ended up removing Windows 8.1 from my system, installing Windows 7 because, well, unfortunately, I have some devices that require Windows still. And now I'm running, to name a few. I got the iPad here. What can I say? It's a nice device. You know, and when you pay that much money for it, you make the sacrifices. But, you know, I am running Manjaro and Windows 7 right now on my machine, and Windows 8 can kiss my rear end.
And there you have it. All right, well, that's all we have for the news and nonsense report. I'd like to take this time to thank the Linux distro community for having us here, and thank you, Matthew, for co-hosting. This is our first news and nonsense report that we've done together, and I think we did a pretty good job at this, hey?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, well then I guess we'll have to come back some other time and try this out again. Be sure to check out Matthew Moore's show. He's easy to find. Just type in Matthew Moore in the search and you'll find him easily. He just put up a really nice tutorial on telling you how to force Linux to not recognize your Windows drive when you're booting into Linux. For those of you who really don't want to see your Windows drives and that sort of thing, but you can still mount them if you want to. I thought that was an interesting tutorial that you put up. So you definitely want to check out his show. It's well worth your time. He's got Linux tutorials, Windows tutorials, he even does iOS stuff. You do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, throughout the years, I've thrown a little bit of stuff in there. I basically find stuff that I don't know how to do, and if I don't know how to do it, I know other people don't know how to do it, so I share it.
Absolutely, and that's what we do on YouTube, because when I started Cup of Linux, I had no idea of a lot of the things I was doing, but I figured, I'd learn how to do something, and I figure, I bet you a lot of other people want to know how to do this, so I'd make a video on it, and then all of a sudden, I'm finding out that, as I've gone along, I've picked up and retained a lot of knowledge. And one thing that's an added benefit, if I forgot how I did something, I can go back and watch one of my own videos and figure out how to do it again.
I've been there before. I've had to refer to my own content to remember how to do stuff.
Yeah, it's great. So it's like having your own journal and that sort of thing. Well, I'd like to thank everybody who has joined us in the listening room. We will be back probably next weekend. Maybe with Toss today will be joining us possibly. And if not, Matthew will be happy to sit in with us for another news and nonsense report. Thank you, all of you, and we'll catch you sometime in your Linux future. Ciao!
Today's show was brought to you by the Linux Distro Community. Visit us today at linuxdistrocommunity.com and chat with us on Mumble or in IRC on the Freenode network in the Linux Distro Community channel. The Linux Distro Community. Freedom through the sharing of knowledge.